So what are the benefits of hard money loans? Why do investors, first-time flippers all the way to investors with thousands of units, why do they come back to me, my hard money loan programs, routinely to fund their projects? My name is Mike Chadwick. I've been a hard money lender for over a decade. And in this video, we're going to get into why people come to me, why do these investors come back to me day in and day out to fund their projects. So the number one reason borrowers come to me is for speed. No doubt about it. I say we're in the speed of money business because we are. My loans are approved in a day. I'm literally engaging the appraiser and expecting my appraisal back in 7 business days. And we're closing on average in 10 days. It's all about speed. It's about speed. And I really get down into the nitty gritty. I look at cash flows and I really present more of a technical approach to understanding the benefits of hard money in certain transactions. In other transactions, they may not work, but in transactions like fix and flips, in transactions where you're doing value add and you're looking to come into a transaction opportunistically, there's nothing better than a hard money loan or a hard money lender that you can trust backing you in your deal. So it always comes down to speed. I think in the end, we'll talk about certainty to close, and that matters for sure. But oftentimes in markets like we're seeing in New England as an example, where inventory is low, borrowers need to put an offer package together that is enticing to the seller. And, not everybody can offer cash. And so they come to me because they know we can close quickly, they can get the financing they need. And maybe access to deals is all that matters. It's not about cost of capital in a lot of ways for a lot of borrowers who just want to be able to move on deals fast. In the end, as you build a relationship with me or another trusted lender, you're going to find that you use my programs, my hard money loan programs, like cash, because we can close that quickly. Oftentimes, a normal transaction that is closed in cash still takes 7 to 10 business days just to get title back. So for us, we're literally, dual tracking title, and maybe we close a day after cash. We're right there, and that is really compelling to a seller who's looking to pick their buyer and know that buyer is going to close and close on time. So hard money plays a really big part in just facilitating transactions. And that's the one thing that I say, it's opportunistic capital. It's not opportunity. Like, you think about the opportunity cost of not getting that deal done. And that might be enough right there to just start to come to hard money, to understand the process and learn how fast it really can be. So the next important thing to know is that we're focused on the asset. I work for a company, they're called Asset-Based Lending, and that's who's sponsoring this video, ironically, but that's the reality of this business. We're not doing a deep dive into your personal financial condition as part of our underwriting in a hard money loan program. Sure, we have a minimum credit threshold. It might be 660 as an example for inexperienced folks. It might be 680 for those who don't have experience, but even those thresholds can be worked around if the experience warrants an exception. So we're really all in on the value of the asset. We're going to be looking at it going in, we're going to be looking at it after repair, and we're going to be making sure that you and your experience executes that strategy and we close. We're not going to take a look at your debt to income ratios. I'm not going to ask for tax returns. I am not going to take a deep dive again into how you earn your money, where your money comes from. We're not going to ask you for proof of employment. All of that stuff is red tape, that's bank stuff. We're looking at very common sense underwriting requirements here. What's your minimum credit? What does that do? That protects us so that we know that if you don't sell the property, if that's your strategy, you could refi us out. What's your liquidity? Okay, well, do you have the down payment that you say you do? And do you have a few bucks in working capital to be able to take care of installing cabinets or completing work and then being reimbursed through our draw process, which we'll talk about. And then, finally, it's really going to come down to your experience verification. We're really not going to do much more than that. It doesn't make sense to do much more than that, honestly. And that's why we're able to make common sense underwriting decisions and get over hurdles like credit at times, because your experience warrants it. That said, the other thing that most people don't recognize here is that because we're lending to an LLC, we're not reporting to credit agencies. This loan that I'm making to you as a hard money loan is not going to affect you personally. It's not going to be a loan that shows up on your credit report. The obligation is of the LLC that we're lending to, that you happen to be the sponsor of and ultimately the guarantor signing on the loan. But the fact of the matter is for repeat borrowers, we're not pulling credit. And at the end of the day, you're not getting your loan that you get from us. It's not showing up on your credit. So there really is no requirement of your personal, in terms of your personal condition. And we're not going to impact it after closing like a bank would. And then finally, as you start to scale and you start to do more deals, you aren't going to run into exposure issues with us necessarily. We're going to be looking at you as you grow. And I have borrowers that I have 11 million out with, and I have borrowers that are quickly growing to that, but they're not going to be prevented from growing to that with us. We're not going to be looking again at that debt to income ratio like the bank is. And now you're looking for another banking relationship. We're going to be looking at you. We're going to be hoping you grow and you scale. We're going to be looking at each, let's call it investment isolated and its own ability to carry the debt load. And ultimately, that's going to allow you to grow with us. And that's how investors use me to grow. It's pretty great to see investors take it again from a first time flip all the way through to a $10 million portfolio. So asset-based lending, it's more than just focusing on the asset. It goes along with how much is required of you as a borrower. And then it also goes to how much is that loan going to impact you in the end personally once you get that loan and now you're out looking for other credit sources. It's an important point. Asset-based lending, ironically, again, is the name of the company that's sponsoring the video. And it's really important to know that that's primarily our focus and how we underwrite our deals in the hard money space. So some of the other factors too that I would say are worth noting is, we'll fund non-traditional projects. I funded a church being converted to resi. You name it, I've seen it in terms of the different types of projects, and we'll really take a deep dive and we'll give it a shot. There is really no, I would say, project that's out of the question, I think, in the hard money space. If it makes sense in the borrower's experience, I think there's a lender out there that will take a project on for sure, as long as their debt load is at a nice ratio to the value of the property, obviously. You have the non-traditional projects. We talked about the fact that we don't require a lot of paperwork, and that carries all the way through. There's also less bureaucracy in the process. We're really fast at funding construction draws, which lends us to really funding a lot of construction projects, quite honestly. And so we're constantly looking at different projects at different locations, funding ground up, funding heavy rehabs, funding additions, doing condo conversions, you name it. It just lends itself to those types of projects. And part of the reason is banks don't really do well funding those high touch projects. As long as they take to fund a loan, it can be equally as slow, relatively speaking, to fund construction draws. And the paperwork associated with the construction draw with a bank might be, a lien waiver, might be, title updates. It could be invoice support for everything you've spent, a physical inspection. And with our programs, it might be a virtual inspection, no invoices, 4 pictures of the property, the room that you're taking a draw on, geotagged, and as long as the work is done, we're funding it based on eyeballs on work complete. So in that draw process might take 48 hours. A bank could take a week and a half, 2 weeks, and keeping the borrower liquid is important. It's as important as closing quickly in a lot of cases. So we want to keep your project funded, and that's really what we do best. I've talked to a number of bankers who just say they have no interest in that high touch construction loan process. And that's okay. That's what we do. We know that our loans are moving quickly through close and they're moving quickly through the construction phase. And our hope is you come back to us for deal number 2 and 3. And then the speed in which we can get through these together is going to help you facilitate more transactions again. There's a lot of intangibles that go along with it. I think in general, it ultimately lends itself back to speed, but it's the nuances within the life of a loan that I think is worth mentioning and highlight as part of why folks come back to hard money lenders routinely to fund their investments. So if you're a real estate investor or you're just getting into real estate investing, take a hard look at hard money loans. I believe it can be the best tool in your toolbox. No doubt about it. We can facilitate a lot of transactions, and ultimately that's what it all comes down to, is doing deals, growing as an investor, and we can certainly help you with that. I want to thank Asset-Based Lending again for sponsoring the video. Please certainly ask questions in the comments. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can always, find me at Mike Chadwick JR. And I look forward to the next video.